What is going on, everybody? Welcome to it. We are back here, back at it, ready to bring another episode to you guys, and hope everybody is doing really good today at whatever point in time you are listening, watching, whatever you guys are doing or checking the show out on. Really appreciate you guys checking the show out. As you can hear, I'm a little bit nasally, so things are going to be a little bit different than I've usually done them tonight. And I say that because I'm actually going to go in and I've recorded some stuff before actually recording this as far as audio goes, and I did this in anticipation of, in case my audio kind of went down, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that audio for you. It's not great audio, wish it was better. I actually did it on the road, so it's recording just through my phone or something, so it's just that phone quality. Not all that great, but I'm going to get the first half of this kind of breaking down the Vanderbilt game and some of the other stuff just surrounding Georgia in that, and then I will jump back in and finish it out with some stuff around the rest of the country and fun things like that. First things first, if you guys don't mind, on Twitter, follow me there at DawgTalk20. I'd really appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button for watching the video. I'd really appreciate that. And then Apple Podcasts, rate and review. Go where you can rate and review that. Give it the 5 stars and review. Again, that just helps us move up the line as far as podcasts and everything go. Don't forget about the website at dawgtalkpod.com. Other than that, we're pretty much going to gear up for things. Georgia Vandy, 12 o'clock, noon kickoff, SEC Network. Should be fairly easy. Again, I'm going to get to that in the audio. But let's first start off with the 2022 schedule release did come out. And I'm going to pull that up for you guys here now. There it is on the screen if you're watching on YouTube here. And that is that 2022 schedule. Open up the season against Oregon. That's pretty cool. It's going to be kind of fun. The Chick-fil-A kickoff game does actually get to happen for Georgia this year, next year, facing off against Oregon there, as it shows in Atlanta in week 1. They're really not really anything too interesting outside of that. I mean, you got Samford's, Kent State. Those are kind of should be cupcake games. But we travel to Mississippi State on the 12th, November 12th there. That will be our crossover next year, is traveling to Mississippi State. So that should be a pretty good one. For the most part, those are the biggest games. You know, you still got your normal situation, Auburn in there, normal kind of kickoff spot there. Now that they're no longer at the end of the season, still got Florida right there, the same thing, end of that. I guess that's Halloween time there. So that's pretty much 2022 schedule. Excited to see that and some of that information and conversation come up. But basically now, jumping into that breakdown of this game against Vanderbilt, like I said, I'm just going to kind of jump to some of that audio there, and we'll check that out. So, again, it's not going to be the greatest quality. You guys hang in there with me, and just hope you enjoy it overall. And I appreciate you guys checking out the show again.
What's going on, everybody? I know some people have been excited. What's going on, everybody? I know the audio is going to sound a little bit differently here. I'm driving down the road at the moment, going to try to do some of this show kind of on the road. Hopefully, I will still be able to, for you guys on YouTube, have some visual up for you there on the screen. If not, evidently, I just did a poor job. So holding back in the studio, great job at not putting any video up there, buddy. But anyways, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the breakdown of the Vandy game coming up this weekend. Again, just kind of doing this part on the road. You know, got to get it in any chance that I can. So really not a lot to break down in this one either, just because Vanderbilt's not a really good team. Vanderbilt, lost in week 1 when they probably shouldn't have. They squeak out a win, I think, against Colorado State, I believe it was, in week 2, and then they fall to Stanford this past weekend. Just not looking very good. They've got a lot of work that has to be done before I think they truly become a team that is going to battle for anything really in the SEC, much less in the country in general. So, again, that's just, I guess, technically just my thoughts on it. But that was a couple of things that I did want to bring up. Biggest thing in this one was last week, coming into the game against South Carolina, the questions that we had were, is this offensive line of Georgia going to be able to actually open up holes and make that run game become effective and make that run game actually exist in games? And I think last week, at the end of last week, or after the games, I had come on and I said, Georgia's offense, it did open up a little bit more on the ground game, and I was glad to see it. And I know we put up almost 200 yards, and maybe I didn't give enough credit to that Georgia had put up nearly 200 yards in this game. So I apologize for that if that's necessary in you guys' book, because I guess rushing for 200 yards in a game just about is a good thing, and maybe I should have given them more credit. So credit is due there because we did have multiple guys get multiple touches and put up a lot of yards in that. Obviously, we did very well through the air, and that looked great. But that was one of the questions I wanted to see. Can this offensive line block enough in the run game to open up these holes? We saw a big 23-yard rush there for James Cook where he got into the end zone. Zamir White, same thing. He kind of gashed through the middle a little bit shorter there, I think 4 or 5 yards. And we were effectively able to move the ball a little bit better. I don't know if you guys really noticed or paid attention in the game enough to watch Kendall Milton just absolutely run a dude over for South Carolina. That was awesome to see, a big hit. That wasn't too far before that, in air quotations, fumble there in the fourth quarter. But he looked really good. I mean, all the running backs are looking really good, and I hope that the offensive line can continue to progress. This is one of the biggest things, and we've talked about this. Other teams have been very good about when they are exposed in a situation, learning from that exposure. In this situation, one of the questions, like I've been talking about here for the past minute or so, is that O-line. Now that we know, okay, we can open up some holes, and we've known for the past couple of weeks that we've got work to do there, hopefully this will continue to progress. Now, this past week, we opened up some holes. This week, against, again, a Vanderbilt that's not a good team, we should be able to gash that defense left and right, whether it's through the air or on the ground. So I'm not necessarily concerned about that. But I still want to see that progression because the week following, we will be at home against Arkansas on a noon kick. What a jab there. That should have been a later game, but we'll get to that as another point. But once you get against an Arkansas team whose defense is not all that bad, it's not necessarily going to be a test, I guess. Well, I guess really it will be. But again, because that defense is going to be better than all the defense that we played, with exception to Clemson there opening the season. And we may not see another defense like that. But I want to see that continue to progress. The other side of that ball is the question that we had is on defense, secondary. South Carolina did a really good job at exposing that. One of those was a busted play, I know, where South Carolina got deep and passed our secondary on the right side for a big chunk play there. And then later in the game, we did have some second and third string guys in there. So we did also get beat on the touchdown pass. That altogether was not a busted play as far as we weren't ready for it. That just happened. They went right over the top on us and beat us deep and ended up, obviously scoring the first touchdown against that Georgia defense. So those are the couple of questions that we've got to have answered. Running game, we showed improvement against South Carolina. I was glad to see that. Now I want to see moving forward. And again, luckily you have a team in Vanderbilt who's not good, that you should be able to work on these almost, and I hate to say it this way, but almost like practice time situation where you're able to get those reps in. That's the biggest thing. And the good thing is, too, you're also going to have an opportunity here to get those second and third string guys in and continue to get rotation and get these guys worked in so that way if you get in a position later in the season where these guys have to be utilized, well, guess what? At least they've got some game time experience. Again, more than likely, because after this week, we pick up pretty strong with the schedule. It's going to get a good bit tougher. So that's just something to keep an eye on as we move forward through the season. Getting these guys reps and having the ability to have game time reps is a lot different than practice, which is, like I said, just a good thing. This will be the last opportunity for that. So I'm looking forward to that. I know you guys are too. And again, just want to continue to see that defense because Georgia's defense, we know it, is the best defense in the country. That's the only thing I want to see Georgia improve on is in that secondary. And if we can do that, I think Georgia stands. I've said it all year, and I say the same thing every time. Georgia has a really good opportunity on their hands if they can continue to improve on the run game and fix that secondary and adjust for those. We can't get beat deep because you're going to play teams coming up that are going to try to beat you deep. And if we're not making adjustments, that's going to happen. I've always said I hate to make the comparison to Alabama, but at the same time, the main comparison that everyone in the country makes is to Alabama because of how dominant they have been over the last 10 years. So, again, I hate to do it, but the comparison is when Alabama plays a team, just like they played this last weekend against Florida, they adjust off of that game. They adjust. They see what it is that they have issues with. They see and they address all of those issues moving forward. If Alabama and Florida turn around and play again this weekend, it's probably a different outlook because Florida's probably going to go with the same game plan because they started to figure something out, whereas Alabama is going to adjust for that. Now, it may take a couple of weeks for them to truly adjust and fix those issues that they had come up, but that is something that Alabama is really good at doing. And Georgia has to do that in this position. Georgia has to improve in those areas that we look at. Just like Kirby said, and if I have the audio, I'll try to play it for you guys, but might not have it to be able to play for you guys right now. That would take me being back in the studio to play that. So if I play it, you'll probably hear it now. If I don't, well, then evidently I didn't get it. But that is something that Kirby, he mentioned after the South Carolina game. He said, hey, the good thing is we have got film. When I turn that film on, we've got areas that we need to improve on. Some of this is tight end blocking. That's a very minor issue, but it is some of that. JT did get sacked on the night. So there are some issues outside of just the run blocking that's got to happen there on the O-line. Tight end blocking, got to get a little bit better there as well. Between Brock Bowers, John Fitzpatrick now, we're not too far away from getting Darnell Washington back. I don't think he comes back this week. He may be back next week against Arkansas. Maybe. Fingers crossed on that. But I would assume by the time we get ready for Auburn, I think Darnell Washington will be back, as well as Tyke Smith. They both seem to be on kind of the same playing field. But that was the questions we had there. Now, since I'm talking a little bit about some of the injuries here, I'm going to kind of pinpoint on that. One of the biggest discussions that has come up this week, obviously with the sighting of George Pickens there on the sideline for that South Carolina game was, hey, what are we going to get to see? Because for the first time in a couple of years, the media actually got to see George Pickens in practice running routes. And Kirby also, he alluded to that as well when he said that George does that every week. For the first 20 to 30 minutes of practice, George will go out there and he runs routes and catches balls, but none of this is contact. All of this is just running some routes, working on that knee. Ryan Corson did, I guess, clear him to be able to do some football activities, and that's what those activities are. Some light drills. After he does that, he goes and he rehabs and everything. I know some people have been saying they really wanted back to the Florida game, and that may be a push for that, but the biggest thing, and Kirby said this as well, was it's not about trying to get George Pickens back. It's trying to get George Pickens healthy. And when we can get him healthy, then we can talk about getting him back. So let's not try to push too hard on the fact and thought of wanting to get him back as soon as we can, because the last thing that we want is to get him back not 100%, and him turn around and tear that same ACL or the other because he's put so much stress on his other leg in the process of rehabbing that knee. You know, that same thing happened to Dominique Blaylock, I believe it was, a couple of years ago. That's the reason we don't see him back yet. You know, he did, I think they did end up saying that he did pull that hamstring, so he's going to be out again for a while. And we haven't gotten him back yet. So do I hope that George Pickens is back for the Florida game? Absolutely. Do I hope that he's pushing for that as well, but in a healthy and safe manner? Absolutely, because I think he would be a very good asset to have in that wideout room, who is improving daily. We've seen that. You see A.D. Mitchell, true freshman, coming in and getting a touchdown pass last week and some touches. He looks really good. Brock Bowers continues to improve. Jermaine Burton picking up where he left off last year. Arian Smith would get his injury taken care of, and guess what? That's just another target there. Not to mention Kieris Jackson, who just came back for his first offensive drive of the season against South Carolina. Look for that to continue to improve, as well as him to get more touches in that space, not only in the punt return. So you add George Pickens to that weaponry room right there, people for JT Daniels to be able to throw the ball to, and that's nothing but good stuff. The other side is we've got to pick it up on the run game. I know I've already mentioned this and talked about it, but it is something that's got to happen. Right now we don't have a standout back, but that's just making all the plays. You know, in the past, Nick Chubb shows up in a big way, Sony Michel. And if you get in those situations where you have two bags, and at this point the veteran bags being Zamir White as well as James Cook, you know, one of these guys should start to shine, one or if not both. You know, we saw that in the 2017 season when both Sony and Nick Chubb actually came into the game and made a big deal out of it and were able to actually put up a lot of yards and do a really good job for us that season. So that's something I want to see improve as well. Is let's figure out who's going to be that head honcho as far as the rushing category goes. Is it the veterans in Zeus and James Cook? Does it turn out to be a Kendall Milton coming in here? Could it be a Kenny McIntosh? Maybe even a Dejon Edwards, who's pretty far on the depth chart right now. But all it takes is showing up, having a really big game, having good practice there in front of Kirby Smart throughout the week, and you get those opportunities. The good thing is, and the bad thing, we have such a deep room there in the running back room that it does allow guys to rest, but at the same time, you don't get to get those touches quite as well as most teams do. You know, you're going to get most of your running backs on other teams that they're getting the workload, and they're putting up 1,200 yards in a season, and that's because they're running the rock all the time. They're not getting fresh legs in there every other time. I think it is a benefit to Georgia because you do have that freshness that you're able to put in there, but at the same time, it limits just how many yards a guy is going to get. Does that prolong his career and the possibility of being able to do really well in the NFL, which we've seen so far with DeAndre Swift, with Sony Michel, with Nick Chubb, with Todd Gurley that's been in the NFL? All of these names that have done really well, and they have had so far, pretty good start to their careers in the NFL. So maybe that's something to also look at there as well. But I want one of the guys, at least one, if not two, to kind of step up and really start to shine. And I think that's got to start with the O-line first on blocking. And then after that, it's all up to the running backs. If they've got holes, they got to hit them. If they can't, they got to bounce to the outside and make something happen. Now, I know that takes a lot of bouncing off of guys, broke tackles and things of that nature. And I think that the guys can do it. I think every single guy on that depth chart there at running back can be that guy. And I just look forward to seeing that O-line improve and these guys being able to do that. Because once Georgia's able to open up the run game like they've done in the years past, having the way that the pass game is going so far, Georgia's offense can then become even more elite than it already has started off this season. Really looking forward to that and excited about it. Kind of jumping into the game here, looking at the ESPN's power index as far as the percentage on the matchup. This is looking at ESPN. I know shouldn't go off of their stats, but we're going to here. Georgia, 98.9% chance to win this one. Vandy, there is a 1.1% chance for Vandy to win this game, and it might be kind of like Jim Carrey there. So you're telling there's a chance. I don't think there's a chance here, Vandy. This is not going to be your day, and just know that the Dogs are coming in big. JT Daniels looking really good, getting the season started. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that here in just a second as well. Ken Seals is going to be the quarterback. He's doing okay, making a lot of mistakes. You can't make as many mistakes as he's been making throughout the season and expect to be successful. And I think he knows that. You know, they know that as well. So I'm excited to see this game, mainly just to see some of the backups get in for Georgia and continue to improve. Georgia, 35.5-point favorite in this one. My over-under on that one is 53. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I did put my prediction up. I won't tell you. I'll save it for when I'm back in studio and I can actually put it maybe in a little clearer sense and kind of clean that one up. Well, I guess I could tell you 53. I picked it at 56-0. So give me the over and also give me Georgia plus the 35.5. may look stupid after this one, but I don't see why there's any reason Georgia's defense couldn't come in here against Vanderbilt and shut them out. I think that even putting in the second, third, possibly even fourth-string guys on that defense, that Georgia's defense is elite enough and Vanderbilt's offense is not good enough to be able to put up a point in this game. As long as there's no mistakes on offense, I don't see why Georgia would not be able to put that 0 in the column there under Vanderbilt's name in this game and blank it. We'll be glad to see it, but I also think Georgia's offense is going to roll in all aspects of this game. I'd like to see, hey, what's the over-under on Georgia getting a defensive score in this game? Because if it's one defensive score, hey, I'll take that. I think it's going to happen, whether it's a pick six, a fumble, a scoop and score. That's what they call it. A block kick, something. I just feel like Georgia's defense is going to do a couple of things in this game to make that really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Back to the conversation I was going to say about the quarterback situation. JT comes into this game, first two drives, and throws touchdowns or has touchdowns in the first two drives of the game against South Carolina. Why did Kirby Smart put Stetson Bennett in there? I know that he has a lot of, and let me also preface it like this. Had Kirby put in Stetson Bennett in that situation and Stetson Bennett threw another bomb down the field and it been a touchdown, this would not be a conversation right now. There would be no conversation to be had right now about that situation. Had he swapped back, and it sounds like they were going with the same rotation they went with against UAB, except for Stetson going 2, then Carson 1, Stetson 2, Carson 1, because it was 2 for JT, touchdowns in both of those drives. Stetson comes in, throws an interception. Then there were another 2 for JT, and it looked like Stetson might come in again, and he didn't until later on in the game. And when he did come in, it was time to. That's when mop-up duty happened. And I think from this point forward, that is the way it should be. JT is your starter. Let the game be in hand, and let's put Stetson in to get some work. Follow that up by putting in a Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift as well to continue to just improve at that depth and everything. And again, none of this would be a conversation. It wouldn't be any controversy to it had Stetson got in and done the exact same thing that he did last week against UAB and thrown a couple of bombs in this game. Everybody would be like, oh, okay, good. Well, we're just good in depth. It kind of goes back to DJ Shockley and David Green. You got two guys in there who can do it. It's a little strange having a mix-up there at quarterback and having one guy in for a drive and another guy in for another. And I don't think that's the way it would shape out for the rest of the season, but you at least have that true backup that comes in and you're safe. If you go back to that UAB game, having Stetson in there and him looking as good as he did, that's the way we all felt by the end of that game. Okay, he's not QB1, but we've got a solid QB2. Because when Carson Beck came in, it did not look good. I'm going to be honest with you. And if you watched the game, you saw that. It just didn't look all that good. He had spurts here and there that looked pretty good, but at the end of the night just did not look all that great. So he wasn't a definitive QB2 at that point. Unfortunately, Stetson, when he did come in, he made a mistake, looked bad, and there was just no point in trying to recover from it. From there, he doesn't come back in until mop-up duty, and for the most part, just handed the ball off from that point on. But yeah, try not to knock Stetson too much. Again, had he just thrown a couple of bombs down the field, it wouldn't be a conversation. Unfortunately, he just messed up. I don't anticipate Kirby putting him back in a game unless one, he's needed because JT's hurt, or it's mop-up duty. It's just time to put another guy in. So let's get that out right then and there. But I'm looking forward to this game. I expect Georgia to absolutely roll against Vandy. Vandy at this point right now, yards allowed, they're giving up almost 400 yards in a game. Georgia only giving up 216. They're giving up 200 in the air and the ground, both. 197 through the air and then 196.7 on the ground. So Georgia should be able to absolutely roll both sides of the ball. I put a couple of polls up for you guys that we will check in on coming up in the show here in just a minute once we get down to that Twitter talk. But passing-wise, Georgia's throwing the ball really well. 272 yards in the game, rushing for 156. I want to see that number go up a little bit. Oddly enough, Vanderbilt's not far behind as far as that rushing category goes, 145. That is a reason that I want to see Georgia's number go up, because right now our rushing category, we're not We're not very elite in that. Again, that all boils down to we got to get the O-line figured out first to make holes for these guys and have guys blocking in front of them for that to change. And I think that's coming. Georgia 7.7 points allowed in game while scoring 35, almost 35 and a half. Vandy only scoring 16.7 while giving up 28.3 again. I think this one's just going to be a blowout. I think everybody knows that. It's time for that last opportunity to get guys in and get some of your depth issues, not really issues, but get your depth work in a game time situation so they are prepared if they're needed later in the season, as well as just getting guys reps, because it's a good thing to do, especially looking forward in the years to come. And I know that's looking forward, but it is what it is. Because following this, you get Arkansas next week. Arkansas's got a decent defense. Follow that up, you got to go to Jordan Hare over in Auburn. The way Auburn looked against Penn State, they're not looking too shabby this year either. So neither one of those games are going to be cupcakes. Follow that up, and you get a Kentucky who didn't look all that great this past week, but they did look good against Missouri a couple of weeks before that. And then that's before you get the bye, and then we travel to Florida. So looking forward to these games that are coming up, but also looking forward to this weekend against Vanderbilt to kind of see what our guys do. How do we handle a situation where we have a team that should be very outmatched? Can that defense come in and absolutely lock things down? Do we have a situation where we come in and start to make mistakes? There are games where teams come in and they sleepwalk through it. Unfortunately, this one being a lunchtime kickoff, it does have that opportunity. If this one doesn't, because it should be a very overmatched Vanderbilt team, we've got to watch out for next week also being a lunchtime kickoff in Athens. We know how that's worked out against teams in the past. Not trying to bring it up too much. That 2019 game against South Carolina, it happened. Came into a lunchtime sleepy game kick and lost it. Made a lot of mistakes in that game. We've got to limit that over the next couple of weeks as we get deeper and deeper into this SEC conference play. But as far as for the breakdown of the game, that's pretty much all I'm going to jump into on that. And I will probably catch up with you guys here in just a little while. Again, I know this audio may or may not be all that great, but I wanted to get this part in, and then the rest of it I'll finish out there in studio.
All right. Well, there you heard it. We're back here in studio just that fast. If you're watching on YouTube, it's kind of like nothing actually ended up happening there, which is kind of fun, kind of cool. Again, hope that audio wasn't too terrible there. Because, again, I just wanted to get some of that to you guys. And, again, I kind of have to space it up. Not really space it up as much as I just need – what's the best way to put it? Sometimes I have to do like that so that way I can get everything to you, because it takes a while to be able to do this. And, you know, it just kind of makes the nights run a little bit longer. Let's take a quick look while we're in it at our schedule, what we've got coming up. Obviously, you can see there on the side of your screen there on YouTube, Vandy this weekend, obviously 12 o'clock. That Arkansas game was slated for 12 o'clock as well. Why? I don't know. Should have been a night game. It's going to be a top 15 matchup once it comes around next weekend. Maybe, because we do have a pretty good game this weekend that could determine that. Then you still got Auburn down there in the top 25 on the 9th. Got more that will come through. We're kind of going to get through this first half of the season before I throw up the next few games for the rest of the season. What I kind of want to get to here now is going through some of the other games around the country, because that, again, is pretty much wrapping up what we have for the Vandy game. There's not a ton to get to. I kind of want to start here in the SEC, because a couple of the big ones in the SEC that are coming up. LSU, Mississippi State should be a good one. A rematch from last year with Mississippi State taking down, at the time, defending national champs LSU from that 2019 season. LSU is a 2.5-point favorite, believe it or not, going to Mississippi State there at Davis Wade. Kind of surprised about that, but we'll see how that shakes out. In my opinion, I'm taking Mississippi State in this one, so give me the plus 2.5 Mississippi State. Missouri, Boston College. Boston College is a 3-0 team at home there in Chestnut Hill. Missouri is still a 1.5-point favorite going to Boston College there at 2-1. It's possible. That one's a pretty close one. I don't really want much to do with that. The big game of the weekend. Top 15 matchup right here. You got Texas A&M, you got Arkansas facing off. That one's at 3:30 on CBS. It's going to be a really good one. That one is taking place at Jerry World there at AT&T Stadium. Again, number 7, Texas A&M versus 16, Arkansas. The line on that one is 5.5. That's what I got it here. The over-under on that one's 47.5. This is put up or shut up time, really. It's time to find out, all right, Arkansas, are you a pretty good ball club? Are you not? Is your defense elite? Is it not? Texas A&M, we know that your defense is pretty good. Can you prove that in this situation right here? But at the same time, can you score on a defense that's going to be pretty good as well? This I would take, if anything, I would take that under 47.5. I don't think this is going to be real high scoring. I mean, I could really see this like 21-17, 24-17. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, but I would take that under 47.5 on it. It's going to be a really good one. KJ Jefferson. It's not Haynes King. You got Zach Calzada there for Texas A&M, Isaiah Spiller. So you got some pretty big ones still in there, but that'll be a big one to watch out for. Around the rest of the SEC, Tennessee taking on Florida. Florida a 19-point favorite in that one. Kentucky traveling to South Carolina. Kentucky a 5-point favorite coming into that one. Surprised that line's that close, but it is. Then you got Southern Miss, Alabama, not really much there. Georgia State, Auburn shouldn't be much there. And then, again, Georgia and Vandy in this one. Still no bye weeks as far as that goes for the others. Now let's look outside of the league at some of the other games that are going on. Villanova, Penn State. Shouldn't be much to it. They're both undefeated, but Penn State should roll in this one, number 6. Top 25 matchup right here. You got number 12, Notre Dame, traveling to Soldier Field in Chicago to face off against number 18, Wisconsin. Really good game here. Surprisingly, Wisconsin only being 1-1, Notre Dame being 3-0. Wisconsin is a 6.5-point favorite coming into this game. Over on that was 46.5. I also understand it because Notre Dame has not really proven that they're all that great. Kind of surprising that they're almost a touchdown favorite there in Wisconsin at the house against a top 12 team, being number 12 Notre Dame. But maybe that's just because how Notre Dame has looked. You would think that ranking should swap. It's hard to do that when you've lost a game. But anyway, again, I've thought that Jack Cohn is the real deal. We'll see in this. Can he do it? Their defense is the biggest question. They've got to be able to stop somebody because Wisconsin's going to be able to stop you. So don't really want anything to do with that one. But should be a good game nonetheless. At 12 o'clock, same time, Georgia's playing there on Fox if you wanted to flip back and forth between those two. Clemson, NC State. Could be a sneaky good game there. NC State in the past has been a pretty good club. Clemson does come in as 10-point favorites in this one. Clemson ranked at 9. Both teams 2-1. It's a good one to watch at 3:30 on ESPN. Iowa State traveling to Baylor. That one on Fox at 3:30. Iowa State a 7-point favorite coming into that one. Another good game to watch right here. Michigan comes in as a 20-point favorite in this one, but undefeated 3-0 Rutgers traveling to undefeated number 19 Michigan in Ann Arbor. Don't sleep on Rutgers right here. This could be a much tighter game. I don't think Michigan wins it by 20. I think Michigan's good, and they've won all their games pretty solidly, but I don't like that line at 20. I really don't. I think that one's going to need to be a little bit closer. UCLA, Stanford should be another really good one. That was at 6 o'clock on the Pac-12 network. Nebraska, Michigan State. Again, don't sleep on Nebraska. Nebraska's a good team, but I think Michigan State's actually pretty good this year too. They're only a 5-point favorite at home against them in this one in East Lansing, but keep an eye on that one at 7 o'clock. 25 Kansas State taking on undefeated Oklahoma State. Should be another good one. OK State's actually a 6-point favorite there in Stillwater, 7 o'clock on Big 12 or ESPN+. West Virginia, Oklahoma. Oklahoma 17-point favorite. West Virginia looked good last week, though. 7:30 on ESPN, or ABC, actually. North Carolina, Georgia Tech. North Carolina, I think, comes alive in this one. Even though Georgia Tech did give Clemson a scare last week, I think weather actually played a little bit into that one. And really, that's the biggest games of the weekend. You kind of got my picks there. Again, I think Georgia wins at 56-0 coming into this one. Polls and questions on Twitter. I didn't really get much response as far as questions go, nor like my dog bites, because I usually do dog bites on Thursday. Don't really have one for you this week. So I'm pretty much just going to go over some of the polls that I put up. They will stay active until Saturday, so you guys make sure you go and vote on them. But I'll give you an update on what we've got so far. 4 polls I put out. Kendall Milton, rushing yards versus Vandy. More than 100 yards or less than 100 yards. 55% saying more than 100 and 45% saying less than 100. Again, got a couple of days left for that poll comes down. But most people are leaning that way, that he's going to have a pretty good day. again, that all kind of depends on who leads the category as far as being the main guy to carry the ball, the main feature back in this game, which could very well be Milton. I'd be glad to see it. I know at Father of the Ballers would be too. All right, when do we see Stetson Bennett in this game? First, second, or third quarter? Most of you guys say third quarter, and really second and fourth quarters tied with you guys. First quarter's down at last in that one. Who knows? It, again, depends on what Kirby does. Again, like I said earlier in the recording, I don't think that Kirby's going to come into this one and start putting Stetson in. I think this game's going to be in hand, then bring Stetson in, probably even bring Brock or Carson Beck in. A couple of last ones here. Who's going to be the leading receiver in this one? You got Brock Bowers, Jermaine Burton, and A.D. Mitchell. Jermaine Burton right now leading that charge, 38%. Right behind him is A.D. Mitchell at 32% and Brock Bowers at 30%. So all three of those are really close. Jermaine Burton leading that one right now. This is the big one. Of all the votes here, and it's a few good few votes in here. JT Daniels passing yards versus Vandy. Over under 300 yards, 100%. And all the votes that I've got in this one. Only 21 votes so far, but over 300 yards, 100% you guys say it. I agree with it because, I mean, he's been at like 288, 290 maybe, 275 or whatever it is the past couple of games. So, I mean, he should be able to throw for over 300 pretty easy versus Vandy. All right, so that pretty much wraps that up. Again, prediction 56-0. And again, I think Georgia over 53. Georgia, give me the line also at that 35.5. Should be pretty good. Looking forward to it. I will check in on you guys after the game on Saturday. I may come to you Saturday night. It may end up being more of Sunday night. Kind of depends on how everything goes. Hopefully I can get this crud out of my head so I don't have to deal with it next go around and I can get it to you as normal. But otherwise, we're going to wrap things up here. Again, as always, I really appreciate you guys listening. Be sure to go over to Twitter. Follow me there at DawgTalk20, as well as go to dawgpod.com. Dawgtalkpod.com. Yeah, there we go. I knew I'd eventually get it right. But again, appreciate you guys listening. I'll check in on you guys Sunday. Go Dogs.